Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to review Races of Eberron for the 3.5 official Wizards of the Coast D&D setting. Now, obviously, this is for the specific Eberron setting. This covers the specific races unique to the Eberron setting, plus the standard core races as they are seen in that setting, because there's some slight variations on how their societies and cultures are presented. So, the first one presented, and by the way, these aren't in alphabetical order. I thought that was interesting. I have no idea why, but they aren't. The first one presented is the Warforged. Now, the Warforged are my favorite thing about the Eberron setting. Absolutely, hands down, this is the best thing presented to the gaming world by the Eberron setting. However, I think they missed the mark by that much. I'm not going to go into full details here. I actually have quite a bit I want to say about Warforged, and I'm going to do a video just on Warforged, which I'm sure will bore the heck out of anybody that isn't a gamer, be that as may. However, for those that don't know it, the Warforged are living constructs. They are a fusion of metal, wood, and stone. They have this strange ichor that beats through their heart and veins. They are alive and yet not. They have some traits of constructs. They have light fortification against critical damage. They don't need to eat. They don't need to sleep. They don't need to drink. Though they can benefit from foods and magical devices that require eating and drinking. They have a hard time healing. They only get half levels of benefit from healing spells, but they can repair themselves with a blacksmith or a weapons or an armor craft check. And because they have metal skin, they have, it's called composite plating. Because of this, they are always considered to be wearing armor. And they come with a +2 AC. And because of this, they can't wear armor and they can't wear robes, which would be used in the armor slot. They have a +2 to con, and -2 dexterity, -2 charisma. This is to show that they're not as fluid as organic creatures, and they're not as adept socially as organic creatures because they are constructs. And they're supposed to be presented as a race of warriors, hence the name Warforged. I think they're very cool. Like I said, I've had some problems with them. I will address that later. The next are the shifters, and the shifters are essentially genetically true breeding lycanthropes. They breed normally. You cannot get the shifter traits through being wounded by a shifter, but they are the offspring somewhere down the line of lycanthropes and people that they now breed true. They can shift a few times a day based on their class level, their feat selection, and their con bonus. And I think they can shift once. They have no other feats that reinforce their shifting ability, and they can do it for a number of rounds equal to 1 plus their con bonus. Now, I like this idea. I like the idea of true breeding lycanthropes. I just don't know if I like the shifters all that much. I think they are a cool idea that, again, fell slightly short. I would prefer them to be able to change far more often. Even though if they take shifter traits, which are traits which enhance their shifting characteristics, making them faster or tougher or better fighters or things like that, that increases the number of times per day that they can shift and the duration of the shift. So that's cool. But I know if I were a shifter, I would want to be shifted all the bloody time. I do not want someone telling me I am limited to this, because the benefits to my mind are good, but they're not necessarily as good as a rage. So I'm not sure if not letting them have it longer is going to be game breaker. But overall, it's a pretty cool race. I like the animalistic nature of them. I think it was well done. Next we have the Changelings, which are a lesser doppelganger. Not quite a full doppelganger, but definitely not human, something in between. And they have the ability to change their form slightly and to very much blend into the world around them, and to different degrees. Some want to blend in completely. They don't want anyone to know they're changelings. Some want to perfect their form, and they're indifferent to everyone else's opinion. So there are different philosophical schools of thought within the changeling community. And again, I like this race, but the doppelgangers from the Dawnforge setting spoiled me. They really nailed doppelgangers so well, a playable version of the doppelganger, that everything else pales by comparison. But if you enjoy that kind of a character, the changeling may be a race that you're into. And last is the Calloused. The Calloused are a psionic race. The Eberron setting has a lot of psionics in it, which is cool. I like psionics. And they have, of course, because they're a psionic race, they have some power points from first level. They also have a connection to the dream world and to a race of alien beings which are trying to basically move into our universe through the dream realm. So there's this whole backstory with the Calloused, which is quite elaborate. A lot of fluff on this. There's some crunch about with how this affects the Calloused lives and things like that. But it's fluff that I just don't find all that interesting. Maybe because I read so much H.P. Lovecraft when I was younger, but the whole concept of a dreaming world kind of poking its nose into ours doesn't seem original to me any longer. I understand that there are people who like the Calloused, particularly for certain kinds of psionic builds. So maybe you just ignore the fluff and you just play them as a psionic race because they look very human, so they can pass easily in a campaign. They'd be a good race to throw in there if you want people to have psionic abilities, but you don't want them common. So it's just the Calloused. They kind of look like human. They pass easily, but they're not. That could be quite useful. Next, they have different, like for the dwarves, they're pretty standard. They have different races of elves in here. Mostly these are social differences, cultural differences. The one is the drow, which are a surface-dwelling jungle species. I thought that was very cool. And they have a culture of halflings, which ride dinosaurs. And that is just awesome sauce. That was very, very nice. Then we have racial feats, which build off of all of the things that I have just mentioned. Psionic feats. Shifter feats, which enhance different shifting traits that the shifters possess. Tactical feats, which are always kind of nice. And Warforged feats. For example, at first level, if you choose to take Adamantine Body, your plating is Adamantine. You get +8 to your AC and negative DR of 2. But you're slower, and you have to take it at first level, and this is the only kind of plating you're ever going to get. So, you know, that's a decision you have to make at that level. They also have things like mithril plating, which allows you to have mithril. You have a little better dex, and again, it gives you a better bonus than the base plating, but you can only take it at first level. So some of these feats are like that. Then we have prestige classes, which are Atafist, which is all about being a better shifter. A cabinet trickster, which is all about being a better chameleon. Who we got in here? The Quarry Nightmare. It's a Calloused class, all about that whole dream realm thing I mentioned. Then we have a whole bunch of equipment in here, which is all kinds of quite useful. Some new spells, and some new psionic powers. All in all, this is a good book. If you have the Eberron setting, this is a must-have. And if you don't, I still think that all of these races can bring something to your table, either as a GM or as a player. I think you're going to be able to take something away from this book and use it no matter who you are. I really like this book, and I shall elaborate on Warforged at a later date.